So I doubled my business like the first 3 or 4 years in the business. And then I grew by like at least 50% the next 3 or 4 years in the business. And then I just got like stuck. You get stuck at like 25 to $30 million. And this is all different. I'm just telling you my story of like where I got stuck on numbers. And then you get to $50 million and it was like, how do you get, there's only so many hours in the day to lead generate and lead follow up. And so, one of the things I did really well starting out was I did the fundamentals and I did the basics at a really high level because I didn't have any money to do anything else. So I didn't do, and I still don't do Zillow. I don't do Realtor.com. I don't do any of that stuff. So I'm still like jokingly, I'm probably the highest paid ISA in the United States because I still call our clients 3 or 4 times. And you've got to understand, like, you're going to lose clients because friends get in the business or whatever it is. But it's, most people work very intimately with a past or with a client for somewhere between probably 90 and 180 days, and they get to closing and then they don't ever talk to them again. And so, just starting out, it's like, I guess going back to it, it's like do the basics and do them really consistently. You can't do them for a week and then stop doing them for a month or 2 days. Like, you can ask my team. I completely, like, I still print out. This is all my printout lead generation every day. I write notes on it and I give it back to them. It's what works for me. It's old school. It's boring. But I have like anxiety about not getting caught up. So like if I know I've got a vacation coming up, I double up on my lead generation every day up until that. So I don't have to come back to being 2 weeks behind on my lead generation. And my lead generation looks probably very different than, for a lot of people. And, so answering your question, like if you're new to the area or you're new to the industry, like people that tell me like, what do I do? I can't figure it out, or I'm not from here, so I don't have like a built-in, I kind of call BS a little bit on that, because you can get plugged in 2020, you can get plugged in a gazillion different ways. It was not that it was that long ago, but in 2006, it was harder to get plugged in. Now Nashville's like, you can go get plugged into any group, any networking, any church, there's just like a gazillion different things to get plugged into. And you also have a phone. Even if you don't know a bunch of people, you probably have 100 contacts in here, or you've got 100 contacts on your Facebook or your LinkedIn or whatever it is. So, and I can go over some of the things that I do and some of the basics that I still do. I'd love to answer, Candace, your question. If we
hey, Josh, Josh, let me interrupt you real quick, just because of what you said right there. When you hit those sticking points, you said like that 15 or maybe the 25 and then that 50, right? Those are sticking points. And I think that we always sometimes forget, like on our trajectory, right? There's going to be ceilings of achievement, and then we're going to hit that, right? How did you break through those ceilings? How did you get to those barriers? What was your action items? Okay, I'm here. I intend to be there. What'd you do next?
So the hardest part for me in growing a business, and I'll just preface with, I never planned on building a team. That was never a thing for me. It got to like year 3 and I realized I needed some things. So, I think the biggest piece on building a team, or the sticking point, is like step back from the situation and go, where's it sticking? So it really usually comes down to you're missing a person, or you don't have good systems or processes in place. And that's just the reality of it for whether you're going from 100 million to 200 million, you're just missing a key hire, or you're missing a key system or process that, like for everything we do in real estate, when you do a transaction, you've got different personalities in a contract to close period, working with a buyer or seller. The process is the exact same every single time. You just have different personalities injected into it. So having a really good contract to close or a post-close campaign process is really important. And that comes down to just having people.
Love it. Okay. Well, let's jump into Candace's question real quick. Was there ever a time when you made less personally while you were building, when you started splitting, hiring, things of that nature? And then how long, I guess I'll rephrase a little bit of her question. How long did you let that drop in income go until you expected a return, right? So it took off.
Yeah. Well, so I did 239 transactions in 2016, and we did 234 transactions last year. So 2017 and 2018, we literally grew zero, and on top of growing zero, we went negative.
Oh,
Not negative like from what we made, but negative like I didn't necessarily make less money, but we didn't do as much volume in 2017 or 18. And then we just crushed it in 2019. I mean, that 2019 was the first time since 2015 that we hit $100+ million in volume. That has been a stupid goal of mine for like at least 5 years. And I literally failed on it in 2015, 16, 17, 18. And we just like smidged through it on 2019. So, it was like, it was getting people, and part of that is a function of our price point, like our personal price point, as well as Middle Tennessee's price point. But it's like, that was a goal, and it's not even that big of a deal. Like, I mean, it's a big deal to do $100 million, but like looking back on it, it was literally just like a number that I set for myself. And I was like, really, frankly, kind of pissed off that we couldn't hit it. I'm like, what's going on here? Why can't we do this? And so, there's just times when you've got to like put a new system in place or make the system you have bigger. So like the first time we ever did 30 transactions, our contract to close like what we had didn't work for 30 transactions. So we had to go back to the drawing board and like recreate our contract to close to make it where, how do we just go ahead and create that system where it'll hold 100 transactions in a month?
I love it.
We don't need to worry about that for a while, because the most we've ever done is 35 or 40. But we went ahead and thought like way far in the future of like, how do we make this? So it's like, we've implemented video, we've implemented some things that we definitely don't necessarily get a return on in the short term. So like a lot of our video might be branding rather than actual. I can go buy $1,000 worth of, this is the typical realtor mindset, I can go buy $1,000 worth of Zillow leads, or I can go do $1,000 worth of videos. The likelihood is that $1,000 worth of realtor leads or Zillow leads are going to get you a closing. I've got no guarantee that my video is going to do anything other than like brand us. And branding is great, but at some point you can't do branding if you're not getting money back out of it, and it's not like adding to the bottom line.
Did you ever because you're speaking about these different things and these different avenues, did you ever get lost a little bit on so many options and always have to check yourself to get back to, okay, here's how I grow?
I'll answer with yes and no. So like, I have a very boring business. So like my business is like very basic, and I have over the years absolutely tried like, hey, well, we're going to do internet leads and we're going to try it. And then we suck at internet leads. So I end up getting rid of it. Like, we just suck at internet leads. Like, I've owned the fact that we're not good at internet leads. Like, that's just not, it's not our business. It doesn't mean, I mean, there are some massive businesses that work, internet leads, but the profit margin goes down so much, and you have to call those people a gazillion times rather than me spending a large piece of our marketing budget on our client events. So, and I can tell you some of the things that we've done to like, pivot from market, like client events versus what we're doing now, which are not really client events. We're doing a lot more pop buys. We're doing a lot more community events. We're reaching out to nonprofits. We're doing like neighborhood beautification type things. So like, we reached out to Hillsborough West End neighborhood, which is where my office is, and said, hey, can we go plant trees in the neighborhood? Can we do like, so our nonprofit helps fund that. So we do it in conjunction with Anderson Group and Rehome, which is our nonprofit. So like, we're doing a lot of things, and we can dig on that more as far as our client events or community events. They're not really client events. So we're doing like Zoom bingos, and we're doing giveaways online, and we're doing, we're talking about doing a Peloton giveaway right now.
Ooh, Josh, I need that, man.
You better start sending me some referrals. No, but it's really, I think people that are used to shaking hands and hugging and breaking bread and seeing people, they're like, especially for most realtors that are really high I personalities on a disc profile, they need that, they need that interaction. And so, it's how can we do things virtually? Like this weekend, we're doing retro snow at our office. It's a food truck that does like shaved ice or snow cones or whatever they are. And it's really just more of like they can stop by and do those kind of things. Robert, $463,000 is my average price point for 2019. So we're doing retro snow, and it's like, they just get to bring their kids by and grab a snow cone and say hi and leave. So
I love it. And you're doing that stuff you're doing that. You were prompted to do that stuff and change the approach because of COVID. Is that correct? Or were y'all already doing these things?
some of them we were doing, but I mean, we're doing a lot more of it because we are used to doing a lot of our client events. And our client events, obviously, we can't have a dinner party with 60 people at my house for our top, referral sources, which I'd love to do. I didn't get to do my crawfish boil. This is the first time in a decade I haven't gotten to do my crawfish boil that I invite all of our clients to. So like that's frustrating, but it's also like the responsible thing to do. So like, what can we do in lieu of those things that still get an impact? And so we've like really, doubled down on lead generation, lead follow-up, and then like community type things and pop buys. So it's just stuff, it's coming up with ideas and taking some amount of action rather than sitting around waiting for this to change, because it's not going anywhere anytime soon.
Right. I love what you just said, staying in the action instead of, it's being proactive instead of reactive at the end of the day. Right.
Yeah. So, and also, and I'm constantly telling my team, like, we got to be proactive versus reactive. And we also have to we have to have the ability to be able to anticipate. So like anticipate 3 steps out from what is happening. And I think we all need to be able to do that to some degree. Being able to anticipate what's going to happen next in a transaction and already be prepared for it, and it's just on little things. It's all the detail stuff. Because we've done enough of these transactions, we know, generally speaking, how it's supposed to go or how it's going to go. It's anticipating like what could go wrong and looking at every one of our transactions and figuring out who our personalities of our clients are and the personalities of the lenders and the title companies and the other agent and it's a lot. It's exhausting right now.
Well, everybody's super in real estate. Everybody stays super low key. They keep their emotions in check. Like, I've never seen anything outside the lines there at all, ever.
For sure. Yeah.
Let me just take a breath real quick. So, hey man, this actually will touch base on a couple questions that have popped up here, and it's one that I already sent you. And I know you are a hyper-focused guy, right? And then all of a sudden you start a team, even though maybe that wasn't the intent at the very beginning of your career. Your team has blossomed. Now, how many total people do you have on your team?
So we have 15 people on our team, and it's about, I mean, to answer Eric's question, I mean, it's about half and half. There's probably a couple more agents than there are admin, but it's about half and half. And I would tell you this, you can't have a team that's got like 10 agents and have 1 or 2 admins. It's going to be a disaster, and those admins are going to absolutely quit. Or you've got 10 agents and 8 of them need to be off the team because they're not doing any production. Because if you have 10 people, really, if you have a high functioning team, everybody on the team should be doing 2 deals a month minimum at a bare minimum. If you've got your marketing, your advertising, your leads, your coaching, your training, your administrative stuff, your systems and processes all in place, it should be actually relatively simple for them to do 2 deals a month every month. So 24 a year.
Yeah. And I think we could go into a whole slew of different obstacles that rainmakers get themselves in. Like, let me cast a wide net of agents. Yeah. Let me give them a 70, 30, 80, 20 split or whatever. I just need more people. That's what I need. And that's so far out of model. That's what you're saying. You've got to have that foundation for whatever size.
Yeah. So go hire the admin first. That's the most important piece. It's the most important piece probably long-term, but it's also the most important piece on the front end. And I could absolutely not justify when I hired my first, and it was a part-time admin person, I couldn't justify the cost of doing it. And I did it anyway, because I said, if I can just free up like 4 hours a day of like BS stuff that is not really BS. It's just stuff that I suck at. Like if I can free up those 4 hours and I can spend those hours lead generating 4 hours more, then I can completely 90 days from now justify the cost of this. So you just have to, you have to kind of believe you can't go get an admin and do the same amount of work. You got to double down on the work to justify the admin, or you got to go work higher price point, or you got to go do more deals or something. So that's how I justified it. And then, you know, if I was doing it again, I wouldn't just go hire a buyer's agent. I would go hire a showing agent or a junior agent that could be, you know, you're the quarterback and you're quarterbacking deals. So like they're out showing properties for you, but you're still writing the offer, you're negotiating the offer, you're negotiating the inspections, you're taking that still from contract to close. You can do 100 deals that way.
Oh yeah.
Having one junior agent or showing specialist and one admin for sure.
Awesome. Well, I love that you're very self-aware, and that's one thing I've always appreciated is that, man, I really sucked at that, so I needed to find help, or I needed to find leverage. And for anybody who's read it, when you look at the cash flow quadrants from Robert Kiyosaki, Josh very much operates in that B quadrant until he starts talking about his own money, and then he goes I, of course. When you're a B, that's a business owner versus self-employed. Self-employed feels like they've got to do everything. So Josh, like the immediate, right when you said it, I was like, boom, that's operating as a business owner, not, hey, let me keep all this because I'm the only person that can do paperwork the way I do paperwork, right? So letting some of that stuff go is key.
Yeah, and I did a Zoom call for another market center recently, and it was really interesting. She said, well, my clients want to work with me. And I'm like, seriously, you really believe that, right? Your client doesn't actually care whether they work with you or not, as long as you have some, if your systems are dialed in, they don't actually care. That's an ego thing that you think that they care whether they work with you or not. They want to get the house. We're not, I'm not going to say we're door openers, but we're like the middleman between them getting in the house and negotiating a good deal. I mean, there's a lot of things that we have to do, but they don't need you to do it. That's just what you think because you think highly of yourself.
I love how we sugarcoat around things. Thank you, Josh.
Yeah, I don't do a good job of sugarcoating. Sorry. So, Candace, do you want me to like dig into, tell me what your specific question other than how did I start building a team? Because I started like Keller Williams does an amazing job of like promoting the team model. I think a lot of people, I think actually the majority of the 7,000 or so teams, and I'm going to air quote teams in Keller Williams are run very inefficiently and done incorrectly. And I think because it's a cool thing to do, a lot of people do it and they don't do it correctly. And I'm not saying I do it correctly, but I've screwed up a lot and I'm doing okay.
Well, you must be doing something right. Okay, so just to give you a little background, so just 30 seconds. So last month I had, just as a solo agent, did 7 transactions, totally in over my head, like, you know, up all night, doing all the admin, all the contracts, trying to save money. So then then I started getting more buyer clients. They were slipping through the cracks because I couldn't take care of them while doing my lead gen of trying to get listings. So, but then my income went up so much, which was nice. And so then I guess I was getting a little stingy. I was like, is this now the time to hire an admin? And of course I've been talking to Tabby and so she's been after me, but I'm like, am I really making this transition? Like I'm hiring someone, I'm like, I can feel the push to grow. And I think at moments I get overwhelmed. So I'm like, what does this look like? What does every day look like? What does it look like with like running a team? Like, are you still very involved with all your clients? Are you kind of one step away? And I know I'm way far away from where you are, but does that give you an idea? I'm feeling the growing pains and I think I'm just not sure I'm just like a little nervous.
Yeah. So this is going to be a different answer for everybody. I don't think you need to start a team, and you can start looking for people, but I don't think you need to start a team, like officially start a team until you're north of 50 transactions. That's just a generic number for me because like I see people that are doing like 30 deals and they're like, yeah, I'm just going to go start a team. Well, like you don't really know enough. You haven't done enough transactions to start a team at that point, and you don't have the training in place. You don't have the systems. Like, don't start a team until you have systems and processes in place and checklists for everything that you do. Now, I'm not saying don't go get an assistant, because you need an assistant as soon as you feel like, if you're doing 7 deals in a month and you feel like you can even do more than half of that consistently, then you need to go get an admin. Like, and it's not just for contract to close, it's for all the stuff. So your first admin might actually be just a catch-all. Like my first real admin took me to 78 transactions. And I mean, I was throwing stuff over my shoulder to her. Like, I should probably call her and apologize. Like, it's, you know, it's, but she was doing everything. She did 78 transactions from a contract to close perspective. She was doing the marketing. She was doing all, you know, setting, you know, showing appointments for me. She was doing all kinds of stuff. So it doesn't, some people can get in the business and not even want to be in production. They just want to build a team, and that's okay. But if you're going to, it's hard for them, I think, to attract people if they aren't. That's like going to a personal trainer that's in not as good a shape as I am. I'm not paying him $100 an hour. Like, it's just not happening. So, you know, you gotta figure out what that number is for you, but definitely the admin first, and you know, try somebody out, try a couple people out in the office, or somebody that you like have them go show properties and just pay them to show some properties for you. You'll figure out in a handful of transactions whether you think they would be a good agent for you, or they're trainable, or they're coachable, or they have a good attitude, or they have the right work ethic. Those are the things I look for.
I love that. Thank you. Well, yeah. So that was part of it. Because when I didn't have an admin, I killed myself for July, and then I'm back up in August. So I'm trying to stop that and just get consistent. So anyway, just yes to everything you said.
Well, I love that. And Josh, I think, I mean, you can agree to disagree or tell me I'm completely wrong. When you're in Candace's shoes and you're really ramping up quickly, because her business is taking off, right? It's amazing. Yeah. I said their business. Now, my man's in the picture now. So yeah, their business is taking off. So it's one of those, like, just get the piece of leverage that's going to free up some time immediately. Contract to close may be good while you're interviewing your admin, right? Just get something, that way you don't find yourself in there till 11 o'clock doing paperwork. Candace, don't let it happen, right? That roller coaster, Josh doesn't have the roller coasters. He has this, right? And steady growth, because that leverage piece is there at a high level. So and here's the other piece. Like, so if you, before you hire an admin, I would tell you a couple of things. One, go, outsource your contract to close. Like, you don't necessarily need an admin for that right now. What you need to put on go through a course of a week and document what you do every day. Seriously, like hour by hour, or every 30 minutes, write down what you did for the last 30 minutes. I know this sounds ridiculous. Do it. And then in the course of a week, circle the things that you're like, this doesn't give me energy. I freaking hate doing this. Because you will create a job description in literally, you could do 3 days. You have a job description and you take all the shit off your plate that you don't like. Sorry, I have a potty mouth sometimes. So, like, take all that crap off your plate that you don't like, create the job description from that, hire that person. You can always outsource contract to close. The other piece is, none of us probably went to school for being a recruiter or how to hire somebody and how to onboard somebody. Go take career visioning. I don't know when Gene Rivers is doing it. I think it's today and tomorrow. So it might be a little next week. Next week.
Go sign up for that. That guy's a complete badass and I love him. Like, he's awesome. But go do career visioning. You don't even have to do the entire process if you don't love the entire process, but you got to take pieces. Tell you non-negotiable. I'm not hiring anybody if they can't provide me references. Not happening. If you don't have references, or your references won't call me back, they don't like you. Like, that's it. And if I can't go 2 or 3 levels deep on references, then I'm not hiring you. Because that is the red flag.
And that's actually, I'm going to circle back to one of Candace's questions up top. When you bring somebody on, I kind of know the answer to this, and I think a couple people on here do as well. I love to hear yours. When you bring somebody on, what expectations do you have for them, Josh? Like, You know, what standards do you have for your team?
So we've got kind of we've got our 30, 60, 90. I mean, we call it, it's our first 100 days. And they have very specific things in those days. Like for me, I've probably kind of changed this up a little bit, but like for me, I don't really care. Like I've told my team, especially during this time, if they want to take the day off or work from home, I actually don't care. I used to be very rigid. Like I grew up on a farm and I was in the military. Like if you're on time, you're late. I've really laxed on that because for me, it's about getting things done at this point. Like I don't care. This is the job. If it takes you till 9 o'clock at night, I really don't care. That's not my problem. It has to be done. At the end of the day, the client doesn't care if somebody has coronavirus. They want their house and they expect certain things to happen. So that might sound insensitive or a lack of compassion, but it's the reality. Like when you want something, and they hired you to do something and you need to get it across the finish line and do it really well. So expectation wise, I think it depends on the job. My expectations are to create a certain client experience, and, we're cross training constantly. So all that to say, my expectations are really like sitting down and here's how you win with me. Here's how you lose with me. And here's the expectations of how I feel our clients should be treated. And here's what they need. And it needs to be done in a timely manner. You've got to over communicate and you got to set expectations constantly. So I know that was like a long roundabout and that probably wasn't the answer you're looking for, but it depends on the job for me.
Well, no, I think it was pretty clear. You set good expectations further, and then, all right, good or bad performance on the job, do you go back to those expectations set at day one and say, hey, here's what I expected, here's where we are? That allows you to have a candid conversation.
So you put metrics in place and you have accountability and those standards, and you actually don't ever have to fire anybody. You just go back to the standards and say, you're not hitting X, Y, and Z. We're putting you on a performance improvement plan for the next 30 days. This is what we expect. If you don't hit it, like, I'm not firing you. Just pack your shit up. Like, it's nothing personal. I still like the people. It's just that these are the standards. You agreed to them. You signed a contract.
I heard it phrased once. Ben Kinney said, have enough respect for me to resign before I have to fire you. And yeah. it was all about revisiting those expectations. So exact same model, and it works flawlessly. So I love that.
There's another guy that does it. His name's Gary Keller.
Yeah, he does. So here's one. Hey Josh, I am not interested in a team, right? And yet, man, I love the fact that you have such high standards for people that join your team. How could I implement that for myself?
Yeah, I think standards and, I think all of that's different for everybody. I mean, some people get into the business, and this is what I love and hate about the business, is like some people get in the business and want to just buy their own personal investment properties. Some people, that's why our numbers are so low from an average production perspective, is like, some people, not everybody wants to do a gazillion deals, and that's not really my goal. I don't need to do much more than what we're doing. Like, I want to have other pieces of the business. So I think it's, you need an accountability partner. You need a coach. Like, if you can't afford, a MAPS coach, go get in the coaching program. Like, you need some accountability. Even if it's somebody, like, don't have an accountability partner that's a friend. It's a horrible idea, by the way. Go find somebody else that's in another market center that can hold you accountable to, hey, you have to send them a text at the end of every day, or you have to do scripts with them just to make sure there's some accountability there. It's different for everybody. I have a coach that I spend a lot of money on that holds me pretty accountable to stuff. And I'm a pretty self-accountable person, because there's a lot of people relying on me to do certain things, including my wife and kids. And, you got to do it. I just wake up, and I'm also the youngest of four. I'm a really competitive person. Like, I just want to win. Like, I don't even, like, the money is great. That's great. I just want to win. So, you put things in place. And so to answer your question on the team thing, like, yeah, there's a lot of people that don't want to be a part of a team. There's a lot of people that also would make a whole lot more money on a team, and
Yes.
they are saying no to something that they don't even know what they're saying no to. So like there's nothing wrong with joining a team. I bet my top 2 agents on the team make probably more than everybody on this phone call. I'm just saying. And they're on a split. They also have a lot of things that are put on their plate that are like in a like a little bow around it for $1 million deal. And they're awesome at what they do. But they've got, you know, there's pros and cons to being on a team. And there's pros and cons of every different team because everybody gets to set up how they want. So all that to say, there's always going to be an individual agent and there's always going to be groups and teams. I just think you have to know, like people get really caught up in splits rather than how much money can I make in the first 12 months or the first 18 or 24 months. So, and to answer your question, Robert, on showing agent, we compensate 15%. So they're not really responsible for anything other than showing houses though. They're not writing offers. They're not negotiating offers. They're not a lot of times even setting up their own appointments to go show those properties. So, you know, our junior agent program, like JD did 44 transactions his first year in the business and made $90,000.
And that was a showing assistant.
Yeah. As a junior agent, showing agent. Yeah. So
90 grand as a showing. That's amazing. Yeah.
that was just his first year. I mean, he, you know, that was like, and some people want to stay being showing agents because they love showing properties and they get to talk to our clients and they're great at it. And you can ultimately make a lot more than the $90,000. You can also make less. It's just different for everybody. So.
Awesome. And then we had a couple other questions. I know Eva asked pretty much the same question. So Eva, I think that 15% will take care of your first one. Let me get to Eva's second one, then I'll circle back. The contracts drafts to hiring. Eva, maybe give me a little more clarity on that. Maybe the standards of which he's hiring or something. Is that what you're looking for? Paula asked, what CRM are you using?
So I use Commissions Inc. I mean, well, the team uses Commissions Inc. and I use Top Producer still. So I'm like still the old school, it's $25 a month or whatever it is. But it works for me. Commissions Inc.'s awesome. It's like, I mean, it's a Ferrari. Like it's got everything. You can do as much as you want in that system. I just don't use it because I haven't transferred my stuff over because I'm hoping that Command is where I need it to be for teams and we can just go straight from where we are to Command.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to ask about Command. I know it's not 100% for teams, obviously. However, is that your ultimate goal to get over there at one time?
Yeah, it would save us, you know, about $20,000 to $25,000 a year.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Okay. Perfect.
And as far as Eva, I mean, if you want to see our hiring stuff, I'm happy to pass it along. It's nothing, you know, it's some form of like something that I probably ripped off and duplicated. You know, Keller Williams is really good at R&D, and so like I probably found it somewhere on KW Connect, and then you know a lot of our stuff is like missing persons reports. So like, who are we missing? Let's create that, what that looks like. Or it's, hey, what do I hate doing, and creating that job description around what I don't like to do.
Yeah, I love it. And then where do you see the market in the next 6 months to 1 year?
Yeah, if I could answer this,
right,
I'd make a lot of money. I don't know. I don't see the number of people necessarily slowing down to moving here. I don't think in the next 6 months interest rates are going to change very much, but I do think that they will bump back up after the election, or at least in the first quarter of 2021. I do think we'll see more foreclosures and short sales and REOs over probably like second to third quarter of 2021. I mean, there's basically none now. So
right.
I do think there are going to be people, but we also have a lot more people that have a lot more equity in their houses than they had like the last time around in 2007 and 8 and 9 and 10. So I don't know. I think Nashville's a little bit insulated. We're not the Detroits and the Miamis and the LAs. We don't go up as much, even though we have had a good run. I don't think it's going to go, I don't think we're going to have as much of a hit, but you know, there's pros and cons when the market does. I don't think it's going to tank. I think it's going to level off. But, with that, there's going to be agents that get out of the business. And if you stay in the business, you're going to get more market share. I mean, there's pros. I gained so much market share when we had the last market shift. Thousands of agents got out of the business in Middle Tennessee. So
Yeah.
those people end up working with somebody else. So, yeah.
Well, it's Keller, Gary Keller said it, more millionaires are made in a shifting market than in a booming market.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind, everybody. Just double down. Now, in a world where there's uncertainty, there's so many options, we already talked about the distractions that could pop up. How does somebody stay focused on listings, and why should they, Josh? I mean, obviously we're not turning away buyers, and yet our focus on listings. What's it from your perspective? We hear it all the time from the Red Book and from leadership or whatever. Why really stay focused there?
Well, with listings, you have control. You get to control the market. So, another piece is, I had this conversation with an agent on my team yesterday. I said, how many buyers do you think you can work with at any one given time? She goes, realistically? I said, well, yeah, realistically. She said 5. I said, okay, great. Like active buyers without just being completely overwhelmed. All right, so 5 buyers. How many listings do you think you can take? She goes, 12. And I said, BS, first of all, but let's just use 12. I've had over 40 listings at any given time, and still been able to call my clients every week, negotiate all those deals. Like you can have so far more listings than you can work with buyers. And let's just say you're on a team and you've got a lower split for listings than you have for buyers. At 12 listings closed, you still make more money. You net more money than you would if you were working with 5 buyers at a higher split. So
plus you have a lot more freedom.
Oh, plus you can also go to Florida and actually go on vacation when you have listings. You can't go on vacation when you're working with 5 buyers.
Yeah.
You actually have to pay somebody to go do it. That's why they're showing specialists. So, you control the market. You control your schedule. You can control your everything. So there's a reason that people focus on listings. And so probably 85 or 90% of my business is listings. And I actually prefer listings. Most people don't. I love them. But I also love that I can go, I can price them correctly. And the better I am in the market at pricing and marketing, and telling people about condition and getting them staged, I know what it's going to look like. I can predict how many sales I'm going to have on the listing side, versus you just don't know what a buyer's situation is. They might take 30 days to find something. They might take 8 months. It's just the reality of it.
Yeah. And last time I checked, I don't think anybody has to financially qualify in order to sell a house. That's right. Just sell that house. That surprise denial letter can shock us from time to time after seeing 30 houses, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I love it, man. So we got.
And with regard to focus, it's like this business isn't necessarily, it's a pretty easy business. Like, it's hard at times, but we're managing expectations. Real estate's about timing. There's a handful of things that we have to do. As a real estate agent, you've got to constantly be sharpening your, your pencil or knife or whatever you've got. It's there's 5 or 6 things that I tell people that come into my world that they have to master. So you have to know the language of real estate. That's called scripts. You have to be able to have a database. And not only do you have to have a database, you have to work your database. You have to feed your database. You have to add value to your database. You can't just call your database and say, hey, do you know anybody looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? They're going to quit answering your phone if you do that. I promise. You have to know, you have to pick lead generation. So outside of your sphere, your database, you have to pick one other type of lead generation. And then you've got to know your numbers. Knowing your numbers is so important. And I didn't do that the first 3 or 5 years I was in the business. I was just winging it like the cool guy. Knowing your numbers, man. Right now, I know that we literally have to do twice as much lead generation to get the same results. We have to do 2x because the conversion, the ratios are different. Like we're having to make 2.5 times the amount of phone calls.
Right.
So,
Well, we got,
and then the last thing is time blocking. Like, I don't care how awesome your database is. I don't care how great your, scripts are. If you don't time block and you can't time block making the phone calls, who cares how good your scripts are? It's like, you have to work your calendar and your schedule. And what most agents allow to happen is they let everybody else, mainly buyers and sellers, run their world. Like, you can ask anybody in my office. I literally don't take phone calls. I don't do anything in the morning time. The reason this is at 12 o'clock is because I lead generate until 11:30. Like, I just don't lead. That's all I do. They don't come knock on my door. They literally slide things under my door. There's something on my floor right now because they slide stuff. They don't bother me. And that's just how important it is to me, because I know that if I don't do it in the morning, my body, all of our bodies are like a battery. It's like your iPhone. When's it charged the most? Probably when you had it on the charger from the night before. So you have the most energy in the morning. That's why I do 5 a.m. hot yoga. Laugh at me all you want, Marcus. Come get some hot yoga, man. It's 108 degrees. Bring it.
You're coming attacking real quick. That's you're judging me, judging you, man.
You told me last week, I think that I didn't have enough protein in my meals or something. I'm not
You're
sure.
talking about a cucumber sandwich. Now we can talk about that. The hot yoga I can get behind. Cucumber sandwich? No, sir. Not happening.
That's good. So the last thing, so those were the 5 things that I'd say we have to master. And number 6, I don't really include it. It's the most important of the 5 that I named. Time blocking to me is the most important. But of the 6, the 6th one is mindset. So like, you got to get your mind right and you got to get your head screwed on right to be able to, like, it doesn't matter what it is. It's either reading books, professional development, it's listening to podcasts, it's doing Zoom, it's going to conferences. Like, you got to get your mind right every day because people are relying on you to do a certain amount of, you're a real estate consultant. I don't consider, I'm a realtor, but I'm like, I consider myself equal to, if not more than, a financial advisor or a wealth manager. Like, that is my mindset around being able to educate somebody about the real estate market. I think that's really important. And I think it's too easy to get your real estate license. And I think people don't take it seriously enough. Most people, like, it's the biggest purchase. Like, most people buying $1 million house aren't just giving $1 million to their financial advisor. So we need to be the experts, especially KW Nashville. Like, we need to be the experts. We need to give people a reason. We need to add enough value and give people a reason to call us and not all these other companies. And there's a lot of great agents out there, just like doctors or anything else. There's also a lot of really crappy ones. I do a lot of deals every month, and I do deals with a couple of people that I love doing deals with. And there's also just a lot of agents that they don't get contracts classes. They don't get training. They don't get, dude, we take it so for granted that, like, Keller Williams gives us, I mean, they filter, go to an NAR conference and see how much crap they're selling you. And then go to a Keller Williams event and see how much value they're adding. It's insane.
Love it. Let me give you a couple of rapid fires. I have a question out of Georgia, and a confused look when she typed it in. All right, so we're gonna set her on the right path. You only think people need 2 types of lead gen? ?
I mean, I don't know. I would put it back in your court. How many legs do you need to stand on? Like, how many?
Yeah.
2. And if you're sitting in a chair, maybe 4. If you're sitting in a stool, it might be 3. I'm not saying you can't do 4 or 5, but you need 2 really good ones, and that'll provide as much business as you ever need. Mine is literally, I've got really just, our team has more than 1, but I have 1. It's called my database. It's agent referral partners around the country, and it's my past clients. That's literally all I call.
And I think that it's also important to, as you add legs, right, make sure that you're seeing a return on investment in those areas, not only on your time, also your money, right? So if it's not serving you, focus on these others like Josh is, because he's focused on one at a very, very high level and his return's insane. So as you grow, keep that in mind.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I was just going to answer some of these questions.
Yeah. Yeah. What you
Anyway,
reading?
I mean, somebody can do as much lead generation. Like, I mean, I built a good business on expireds. I don't love for sale by owners, but I built a good business on expireds. You know, for me, expireds weren't like, they're probably not as good now. If you're going to call expireds, I'd call older expireds, because the ones that are going back on are probably getting hammered right now. I just, our database is big enough that I just don't need to call expireds anymore. It's not that I don't love working with new people. Our ISA calls some expireds, and we've just closed one last month in the Governor's Club. It was an expired, and we, I mean, knocked it out of the park, and I loved it. So, yeah. Hope, yeah, three-legged stool. And that would, stools have three legs, right?
Some, yeah, most, some, I don't know. Sometimes four. We never know. Hope's always got the analogies. It's always popping them out. So Cam asks, what are you reading now, Josh?
So, well, you can see all these are real books. A lot of them I've read and a lot of them I haven't. So I do a lot of podcasts now, just because I like, if I can go on a run or a walk, or I podcast everywhere. Yesterday, I literally was listening to a podcast while I was in the shower. It's so ridiculous. You know, and so like the podcast I was listening to, if y'all want to listen to a podcast on leadership, Craig Groeschel, I mean, it is awesome. He's a pastor in Oklahoma City, and man, his leadership stuff is insane. I love it.
What's it called? Just his name?
Yeah, look up Craig Groeschel, Groeschel. Man, his stuff is awesome. It's Becoming a Leader.
Becoming a Leader. Okay.
It's just his Greg Groeschel leadership podcast.
Oh, okay.
So I have tons of great podcasts. I've got the One Thing podcast. So I just like throw something on. My favorite podcast is Business Wars. I don't know if you've never listened to it. It is awesome. So it like compares Blockbuster versus Netflix. It compares Nike versus, Under Armour or whatever. So that's good. And then I have a Blinkist app. The Blinkist app just does like, it does audio, or you can read it, of like digested versions of the books. So like I'll skim, and then Gary gives us books to read like once a quarter. So I do that.
Josh, I got one for you. We got somebody dropping some questions on us who has not experienced yet the Keller Williams way. So I'm very excited about you answering some of these. How often are you calling your database, since that's your owner resource? And then how do you not sound like a dang robot? I mean, if you're calling these people 6 times a year, what are you saying different? How are you changing up? How are you keeping it fresh?
What was the first part of the question?
How often do you call the same person?
Oh, so it's different. So I've got different labels in so like my referral sources, I call monthly, because probably a lot of them are friends of mine. Not all of them, but I mean, I'm calling, I'm going and having coffee, and like, those are my lead sources. So like my referral sources are monthly, and then past clients are typically quarterly. So, they're probably getting a text message about one of our client events. They're probably getting a voicemail, or they're getting a live call. And then we do like our contests and our giveaways and our pop buys. So they're getting different, and some people are getting more of that than others, but they're getting our newsletters. And so the second part of the question is like, you don't really have to have scripts. Just be a human. Like, now is still the perfect time. I said this, I think we did this like back in March or April.
We did.
And it's just like, just be a human. Just call people and say, hey, I know I haven't talked to you in a while. How's it going? Like, that's it. Because they're going to ask you about real estate. Well, what's going on in real estate? And then you get to tell them. Like, it's literally just, how are you? Hope all is well. And I know there's a lot of people that probably haven't called one of their clients since closing. And it's 2 years later, and you're like, it's kind of awkward. Like, what do I say now? It's almost been too long, and it's going to feel weird. And like, a lot of that's in your head. So like, just know, like, when you're making a phone call, if you think value and you think contribution, you don't really have to have a script. It's literally, And oh, by the way, most of the people you're going to call probably aren't going to answer. So you're going to leave them a voicemail. Like, it's not this hard. Like, y'all are overthinking it. It's like really not difficult.
Yeah.
And so to make our calls really easy, one of the reasons we started going a lot more in on client events was because I wanted to make it really easy for the agents. So if you don't want to call and say, you know, because again, nobody's going to answer your second phone call if the first phone call goes like, hi, this is Josh. Do you know anybody looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? Like, they're not going to answer your phone. Like, you can't do that 4 times a year. But you can say things like, hey, you know, we have a goal this quarter and we're behind like 6 deals, or like we're behind on helping 6 families. Do you know anybody that we might be able to help? Or, hey, I've got a client event going on. We sent out an email to you. Just want to make sure you got it. Or it could be, hey, it's Josh. Marcus, I just wanted to call and let you know we really appreciate you being a client. Thank you so much.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Have a great day.
Yeah.
Hey, if you need anything, let me know.
Well, and I like the one where you said, hey, we're 6 behind our ultimate goal. Here's the other thing with that. You earn the right to have that script if you stayed in touch with people,
Yeah.
right? That's a script that you earn the right to use. And yeah, that's awesome, because then they feel like they're on the same team and they're supporting somebody that they already have worked with.
Another thing you can do is call your clients and just say, hey, you know, we're talking in the office, you know, we're doing a client event in, you know, September, and we've got to narrow it down this week. And we've narrowed it down to this, you know, X and Y. What would you be more inclined to come to, you know, this party or this gathering? And so that does kind of like 3 things. It tells them you're still in real estate and you're doing well. It tells them you value your opinion. You value their opinion on what, like, them showing up. And even if they can't go, like, they'll still tell you, like, hey, you know, we're doing a client event for our top 25 referral sources. Would you be more inclined to go to a Titans game or, you know, a Sounds game or whatever it is, or a dinner party at our house?
Yeah.
And then they would go, hey man, that's awesome. I'm a huge football fan, so I'd rather football. And you call like your top 10 and ask them that question. Like, that's an easy question.
I wonder if you're serving cucumber sandwiches at the dinner party. I'm just saying, you probably not. Okay, let's be honest. Nobody'd show up, Josh. All right, guys.
Good, and they're healthy.
We've got 4 minutes remaining, guys. So if you have any quick questions, pop them in there. If you don't have a question, show Josh some gratitude. Josh, while we wait on anything that pops up, any final words, my friend?
Yeah, man, I you know, just like get back to the basics. I think we all, including myself, are trying to like overthink how to stay in touch with clients and how to get more business. Just show up. Like, that's half the battle. Show up, be awesome, do what you say you're going to do, and then go do a little bit more. Like, that's kind of the details matter. Like, those are the little things are what people remember that really stick out in their brain about a transaction. Like, one of the things that we do, I've given my admin and transaction coordinators the ability to just go buy stuff on the company card. Like, if you know you're talking to one of our clients and they're having a rough week, then go buy them whatever they feel like, or whatever you feel like they need to cheer them up. Or if you know in the course of a conversation that their dream trip is to the Amalfi Coast, go buy them the nicest $100 coffee table book on the Amalfi Coast. Can't do the trip, but we'll do a book, and it'll sit on their coffee table and it'll make them think of us, and like, that'll make them happy. Do little things. Oh, and then do the basics every day, consistent.
I love when you're talking, literally me as just like me out of my role, me just as a person, right? When you're talking about what your team does for your clients, it makes me want to use you to buy a house, right? And I think that if all of us had that mindset and said, okay, Josh does that and he makes an experience for his clients with everything that he said, all the bullet points, all the easy implementation that he's given you today, think about who would I want to like hire and go be that person, right? And essentially that's what he's done in a systematic format. And I love.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily even look to real estate to find those things. Like I go to the Ritz-Carlton or I go to the Four Seasons, the smell when I walk in that place, or how they treat me, or how did they know that I like the Tennessean newspaper or the Nashville Business Journal, or like, it's just the little things that they pick up on. Or how do we create the Disney experience for people? People love Disney. They're like, they've got this massive tribe. So how do you go do that on a small level for our clients?
Beautiful. All right, guys. Well, Josh, on behalf of everybody, my friend, as always, thank you, sir.
Man.
You're the man. I appreciate you, bud.
Thanks, guys.